So in this segment, we're going to be talking about another car part supplier called TMS blames the impact of Brexit as it acts as UK operation. So this is a company that makes, it's called OEM parts, so original equipment manufacturer. So what they'll do is they'll make a part that goes into a bigger product. So in this case, TMS make thermostats. So the supplier of components to Ford and Jaguar Land Rover is closing its UK plant after 60 years in a move that will revive the debate about the impact on Britain's automotive supply chain. And this is a company by the looks of it that's directly blamed Brexit for the site's closure. The decision will affect approximately 140 jobs at the TMS site in Reading, where the company and its predecessors have operated for decades. And this will not just impact them, it'll also impact the companies they supply. For example, I'm not sure, I think Ford is still has manufacturing in the UK. I'm not sure about Jaguar Land Rover. But for example, right, if Ford want to import these thermostats from the EU, wherever this company goes to TMS, right, if it sets up more manufacturing in the EU, for example, they're gonna, once they try and import these thermostats, they're gonna have to go through import checks, which is going to cause delays, especially because they'll be going through UK side import checks, which, let's be real here, our import systems aren't great. They could look for an alternative supplier, but given the fact that this company's been around for about 60 years, this is probably a long-term supplier of these car manufacturers. Among its other customers are Renault, Nissan, Bentley brands. So these are, really good thermostats if Bentley and Jaguar are buying them as well. TMS's decision to close its UK facility, which is expected to be announced publicly, has been driven by the need to drive operating efficiencies, which have been made more challenging by supply chain issues exacerbated by Britain's departure from the European Union, according to one insider. And it's not just the import checks, it's the lack of lorry drivers that we have in this country as well. That makes it more difficult to import goods or move around goods compared to before. Increased paperwork and distribution costs and complexities driven by Brexit were a factor in its own decision, they added, as was TMS's need to consolidate in Europe as it moves from supplying diesel and petrol cars to hybrid and electric vehicles. So what that kind of implies is that manufacturing of these cars is moving towards the EU or towards other countries outside of the UK, and TMS wants to continue supplying these cars with their products, and they may need some retooling of their factories, which retooling is quite expensive, and it sounds like instead of retooling existing factories, they might look at setting up new ones with the new tools that they need. Also, the fact that I'm not sure on the complexities that go into thermostats. I believe something like mercury goes in them, which if they have to import that from the EU or any other product that they need, if they need to import those products to make the thermostats from the EU, then it's far more difficult now to do so because of all the paperwork. And so it might be easier if they move to the EU, can make a full thermostat over there and then try and export that into the UK, because they can get all the parts or most of the parts they need from the EU, if that made any sense. The UK's automotive industry has experienced mixed news since the 2016 referendum, with the bleakest shadow cast by Honda's closure of its plant near Swindon. And that's something we spoke about a lot at the time, even though I'm sure I confused Honda and Nissan. By contrast, manufacturers including Ford and Nissan have preserved thousands of jobs by announcing substantial investment in new models in the UK over the past year. However, the Ford and Nissan ones come at significant cost to the UK taxpayer because they got heavy concessions out of the government and managed to get huge subsidies and investment from the British government. The Nissan one I think was particularly egregious, where they got a lot of money out of the government, but who can blame them? Really, it's not their fault, it's ours. Boris Johnson is also hopeful of securing a landmark investment from the electric car maker Rivian. I've never heard of Rivian before this article was made, but fair play, in a new factory in Britain. But again, the question Rivian need to ask themselves if they don't have a kind of EU factory set up is, how expensive is it going to be for you to export this car, right, or engines or whatever you want to export to the EU? How expensive is that going to be compared to if you set up shop in the EU and didn't get the huge subsidies? Because you have a much bigger market, much more people with a lot of wealth in the EU as well, who might be looking at buying electric vehicles, and the EU do offer, I believe, subsidies or at least certain governments would offer you subsidies for the electric vehicles as well. Maybe not as good as the UK, but the UK is a smaller market than the EU, so that's something Rivian would probably look at. And if you're not, then you really should be. Responding to an inquiry from Sky News, Mark Frankel, TMS's group chief executive, said, over recent years the automotive industry has experienced unprecedented turbulence and uncertainty, with certain markets hit harder than others, especially because of the issues around certain parts like CPUs, central processing units. I think that's what they stand for. That's been a big problem with car manufacturing, and it still is. TMS has navigated these challenges, and we continue to experience strong demand for our best-in-class thermal management products from OEMs, original equipment manufacturers, and Tier 1 suppliers from around the world. It was against this challenging backdrop that the decision to transfer production from the UK to Europe was made. So it'd be interesting to see which EU company they go, which EU country they go to, or which ones they go to. It might be more than one. It was not taken lightly and was only made after careful deliberation and consideration of the company's critical stakeholders and the outlook for the industry. So maybe they see it as more and more companies are going to be moving out of the UK and into the EU in terms of car manufacturers. I might be wrong here. It might not be just thermostats that they make. It might be whole heating units they make. Could be wrong. They don't really specify that much. It says in total, TMS employs about 800 people at sites in Brazil, China, the US, as well as its European facilities. It sells more than 30 million thermostats to the global automotive industry each year. It might not just be thermostats they make, it might be other stuff as well, like heating and things like that. Incorporating the heritage of well-known automotive manufacturing names such as Waller, Magel, and Thomson brands. I'm not familiar with any of these brands, to be honest. I know Bentley, but that's as far as my culture goes, really. But you can see here 140 jobs lost at the TMS site because of Brexit. Very hard to say otherwise. They've cited that as their specific reasoning. Sometimes car manufacturers are a bit coy about the reasons why they're moving when it's not hard. But, again, if you're this company, right, and you could see manufacturing move towards the EU or to, even third countries, right, outside the UK, what are you going to do? Because, chances are to build these thermostats, right, the UK doesn't have the raw materials it needs to manufacture them just here, right? TMS can't get all the parts they need, for example, if this is the case, hypothetically. So they have to import those goods. Now, they could import those from third countries or from the EU. Say, in this scenario, they import, the metals or whatever they need from the EU, right? Or they come through via the EU. That all gets checked via customs. All of it gets import checked, okay? And then these thermostats that you've made, you can see more manufacturing move into the EU, so you need to export more of these thermostats. You get hit with customs again. And also you need to prove that the majority of the thermostat or the product was made in the EU or the UK, for example, with EU/UK parts. If you can't do that, you might get hit with tariffs, and even if you don't, you still got to pay customs, VAT, and other things, right, on site. And it's just not worth it for you. So maybe you think, better off moving over there where, the entirety or the vast majority of the car is going to be manufactured. If that's the case, it makes sense for TMS to move because they already have, plants, by the sounds of it, in China, the US, and other places where they can use those to export to other car manufacturing hubs. Europe is the outlier there, really. So that might be why they're moving to an EU country. They didn't specify which one. Potentially they might not have it all set up yet, so they might not know, or they just have been yet to announce it for whatever reason. But simple fact is, it's not good news for the UK as we've lost more and more jobs. And, I wouldn't be surprised if the government went to them before they left and said, look, how do we keep you here? And TMS said, it's just not worth it. Anyways, I'm going to leave it there. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Like, comment, share, subscribe. Support the channel on Patreon if you can. And hopefully I'll see you in the next one.